What are the most influential albums for Gen Z artists and Gen Z's music taste overall? And I'm not talking about albums by Gen Z artists, I'm talking about the albums that shaped the Gen Z stars that we currently know and love. I'm in the process of counting down my top 15, and today is number 12, which is Frank Ocean's Channel Orange.
Now you're lost in the heat of it all.
Released in 2012, Frank Ocean's debut album debuted and peaked at number 2 on the Billboard 200 and has since spent 263 weeks on the chart. And though the album only had one Billboard Hot 100 hit, being Thinking About You, there have been quite a few sleeper hits like Pyramids, Pink Matter, and most notably, Lost. This album introduced a new blend of sounds that would change modern music as we know it. Blending soul, funk, alternative, electronic textures, and personal storytelling, this album reshaped R&B. With minimalist, genre-blurring production, the album has a soundscape that feels rich and cinematic, not to mention the album's raw emotional honesty that showed the world just how intimate and vulnerable music could feel. It explored topics like love, identity, desire, and mental health, which normalized experiences rarely addressed in mainstream R&B, especially coming from a queer artist. Frank's openness about his sexuality gave queer narratives a presence in the genre, which at the time was rare, and started larger conversations about identity and authenticity in music. This album cultivated a real cultural moment that was huge for music and music's trajectory, but was also huge for representation and normalization. Channel Orange took Frank from an emerging artist to a cultural icon while also helping to pave a path for a new era of R&B and alternative music, where vulnerability, experimentation, and personal storytelling became central. Many current artists today cite Frank's work as an influence in their songwriting and album creation, with some Gen Z examples being Omar Apollo, Billie Eilish, Steve Lacy, Clairo, and Khalid. Omar Apollo has referenced Frank as an influence for him before, saying he played a role in shaping his sound, style, and storytelling. Not only does Omar explore more R&B leaning tracks, which critics and fans have pointed out Frank's influence in, but the influence also shows up in his emotional expression and exploration of sexuality and identity. And Billie Eilish is an artist who is known for her emotionally intimate, genre-fluid, and more minimalistic music, so it's no surprise that she has also talked a bit about Frank Ocean and her enjoyment of his music, and even covered some of his songs. Steve Lacy cited Frank Ocean as an inspiration, specifically in his unwillingness to conform to pop music. Critics and music analysts have also noted that Frank is a big influence in general on the contemporary sound that Steve works in. And Clairo, similar to Billie, has spoken a bit about Frank and his music and covered some of his songs, which played a part in her early music development, and I believe his sound has at least partially influenced Clairo's soundscape. And finally, Khalid, another big Gen Z artist, has also cited Frank Ocean as an influence for his music. Without this album, I don't think the artists I just listed or music in general would be the same today. I personally didn't get into this album until like 2020, but on my first listen, I immediately recognized Thinking About You from that one Vine, and then I remembered how inescapable that song was in middle school because of that Vine. While it was a cultural moment starting important conversations for the oldest portions of Gen Z, it was one of the earlier meme songs for mid-Gen Z, and that duality alone conveys its impact in my opinion. And that's about all I have for today's album, but I hope to see you back tomorrow for my number 11.